What is up, everybody? I'm No Lex Given, and today we are going to be taking a look at Peter Pants. I like to take a look at Peter Pants about once a month just to check in, see what this guy is up to, and I do play a lot more Peter Pants than I actually ever wind up showing off on the channel, just because the games are going to play out pretty similarly, so something kind of exciting has to happen, or something at least a little bit different. Like, I'm not just going to show you guys my typical hat, ball, fork Peter Pants videos. This one winds up being pretty vanilla as far as Peter Pants games go, but we still get up to some pretty nice shenanigans by the end of it. I'm debating on turn 3 whether or not I want to try to start to pick up some blind mice already and look for that forking rod so that I can have that bland average video, but I do still go for it. The main consideration that I had for locking onto the blind mouse was that it would allow me to pick up two cost characters this turn, but then once I see the shop, I change my mind a little bit. The sooner you can grab econ characters, the better. That's going to include Prized Pig, Lucky, I guess that's it, Prized Pig and Lucky, but also I wanted to throw Brave Princess into this category. The sooner that you pick up any of the 3 of those, the better your game is going to be, just because you're getting a little bit of cash for free, or in Brave Princess's case, a treasure for free a little bit earlier. So for that reason, I just wind up going for the Lucky, and then on turn 4, I get to pick up another Wizard's Familiar that blesses me in the shop, as well as that Water Wraith pair that I locked onto, and that blind mouse that I locked onto a few times there. So this is going pretty nicely for us. Getting to pick up a pair of Water Wraiths makes us decently strong. We are still going to lose to this Pied Piper, unfortunately, but we will then pick up a free unicorn. I pick up a golden chicken as well, and then we get to pick up some more econ in the form of another Lucky, and I guess Ogre Princess. That was the third econ hero that I was thinking of, so I'm gonna wind up picking up that as well. And I actually had a game that I didn't show you guys that I was calling Econ Ball. It wasn't, I think, as exciting of an end game as this one, so I didn't ultimately wind up putting it on the channel, but just resulted in a lot of these Luckies and Ogre Princesses early on in the game that really jumpstart you. Getting access to these when, I mean, Peter Pants is just doing one thing. They're using all of their economy to roll and try to hunt for tier 3 treasures. So a little bit of help in that regard can certainly go a long way. And we're going to see that play out in this one, I imagine, as well. Ogre Princess not quite getting that slay, but we will get the win. So 29 health, actually pretty low for Peter Pants. But here we can see those Luckies coming into play already. And from here, I'm going to ditch the Ogre Princess already. Basically, whenever I can, if I'm playing Peter Pants, I will take the opportunity to use a Shard of the Ice Queen. And as you can see, that allows us to grab a triple right here and grab a Crystal Ball on the 5th turn of the game. So definitely feel good about this decision. And yeah, that's something that I'll do pretty commonly, especially on Stag and Ogre Princess, which are characters that are good early on, but are going to fall off in the mid to late game compared to some of these evil characters, which just have more synergies. Water Wraith and Vampire being really great because they scale naturally, and then also just playing all of these evil characters allows you to make better use of Queen of Hearts, which my opponent is doing against us, unfortunately. And here I'm just going to wind up picking up a Brave Princess as well as this Lonely Prince because they're free. Essentially, the Brave Princess only costs 1 and will sell for 1, so there's no real opportunity cost there. But with 2 Peter Pants triggers on it, there's actually like some merit to the card, but ultimately I decide not enough. And then, yeah, we are going to wind up looking for some Queen of Hearts eventually. There was one other point that I was just about to make, and then totally forgot about. So, oh well. But yeah, oh, that's what I was going to say. If you're interested in some more of my thoughts, I'm repeating, and that's why I don't put out that many Peter Pan's videos. I feel like all of this stuff I've said previously months ago, and I did put out a Peter Pan's tier list video. So if you have not seen that already, you can check that out. I'll maybe leave a link, or somebody in the comments can leave a link and I'll pin it. And that is just basically my thoughts on every hero and a buy list priority while playing Peter Pan's. And I think it's pretty consistent to how the hero felt a few months ago. One other evil character that I am going to look for is a spell weaver, so we'll add that to the board. And then I'm going to pick up a mummy because it's a pair. You will notice that I rolled past a Queen of Hearts there. It's because I also had a lucky that I was looking to triple up and just didn't really have any room to add Queen of Hearts to the board. So I could have sold off the Wizard's Familiar. I'm not super into that when like it's so early on in the game. We do have the Crystal Ball, but I'd much rather find Crystal Ball and Hat, or Crystal Ball plus Moonsong Horn, before I really start to care about all of these Wizard's Familiars. But ultimately, this is going to put us in a pretty strong spot. We also get to pick up Ancient Sarcophagus off of the Lucky, which is not something I'm looking to hang on to forever, but it's the other reason that I really like evil characters. It's a nice evil payoff card that we'll make great use of here. And we're actually strong enough that we're not going to make great use of it. We're just kind of going to kill our opponent regardless, but that's okay too. I'll pick up not another, but just a Princess Peep. And what I was going to say about this is primarily with this Princess Peep, I'm just looking to flip it with the Shard of the Ice Queen, which we find pretty quickly after that. So that is another reason to play into evils, is you're just going to find Shards of the Ice Queen pretty quickly. But it's not going to matter for too much longer. We do eventually find that Merlin's Hat. So now I'm just looking to pick up anything with the word mage on it, basically ignoring anything else, and then cast a bunch of spells. And then also looking for Blind Mice so that we could potentially find Forking Rod. We're going to do some other silly things in this one. We're not quite going to find Forking Rod, but we'll find some other fun treasures along the way. And now we are up against Loki, and it was interesting. We dropped to like 29 health pretty early on, but now I think we've definitely stabilized, and we've got the Crystal Ball plus Merlin's Hat, so we are really only going to get stronger compared to the rest of the lobby from here, and I'm feeling pretty good about our chances. Loki looking interesting with a bunch of monster books, and they've got a pretty large Wizard's Familiar themselves, but no match for the main wizard of Storybook Brawl, and that's going to be Peter Pan's. We do wind up picking up a Blind Mouse, but that doesn't really grab us anything great, so we're just going to skip those treasures and keep on rolling. And again, yeah, just really looking for mages here and looking to cast as many spells as possible. I'm going to change Spellweaver into a good character, just to give it a little bit more health. And then we look for, there are actually some tier 2 treasures that I've talked about from time to time here, but nothing super exciting in this shop. And then I'm finally going to give up on the Lucky as well. I'm going to transform that, and that gives us a Cupid that also gives us a Cinderella for the end of the turn, and I just barely am able to grab another Wizard's Familiar and unlock the shop. A lot going on there in those last few seconds, but yeah, like I said, just picking up any mages that I find, and then we're going to be looking to True Love's Kiss this board up the chain and find some cool units that way as well. I do find another Spellweaver, which is nice, and we'll start to add some additional stats onto that. Basically, all stats are going to go onto our mage characters because those are the ones that we know are going to be sticking around the longest. The one thing to consider though too is to potentially try to make something else other than a Spellweaver good, and this is something that I go back and forth on. Do you want to use your first Beauty's Influences, because eventually you're going to make the whole dang board good? But do you want to use those first Beauty's influences on Spellweavers just to give them a little bit more stats? Or do you want to put them on other characters that you will be able to then freely Shard of the Ice Queen? So if we had, for instance, turned the Cupid good, I'm not sure if that was even an option, but maybe... no, I don't think it was. But maybe we could have transformed like the Wicked Witch or something like that here, and that could have been somewhat interesting. So just something to think about as you play Peter Pants yourself. Up against Pied Piper, and they're looking somewhat strong, but we do get to take out the Medusa there, so that's nice. And then we'll make their ranged characters attack themselves. So we do wind up finding a win, and now all of a sudden, 25 health, we're near the top of the lobby, which is kind of funny, and almost back up to 29 health as we are slowly gaining some health here. We'll pick up a treasure map, which is cool, and then we will TLK into Burning Tree and then into Boomhilda, and that is not going to be a super powerful character, but it's somewhat interesting here. And I'll move some things around, but ultimately this board position is pretty decent. I am a little bit afraid of the fact that we are playing up against a Horde Dragon. 31 health, they could definitely be high rolling. We're going to look to high roll a little bit ourselves. Wild Treasure Map on Blind Mouse could be really cool. I'm actually also just very into tripling the chicken or tripling some Wizard's Familiars with this treasure map in play. Grab a tier 4 treasure. Forking Rod on Peter Pants does the exact same thing as Wand of Weirding. So looking for Forking Rod primarily, that's going to be the easier one to find here. And we're looking quite strong against this Horde Dragon. They are not too strong just yet, so we've got some time. We're going to pick up that Wizard's Familiar, and then we're going to triple the chicken, but unfortunately no good tier 4 treasures off of this one. So we'll keep on rolling, see what we can find. I'm going to wind up Mix-a-Whizzling, then True Love's Kissing our Wicked Witch. That gives me a Lancelot, so now we could potentially activate that and grab a tier 5 treasure, though I will say tier 5 treasures aren't actually super great on Peter Pants. There's no real mage-related tier 5 treasures at this point, so not really looking to grab anything of utmost importance there, but I do realize that despite not having more spells for Lancelot, we can actually activate Lancelot this turn. I realize it in like the last few seconds when deciding what to put in front of Boomhilda. I go, oh yeah, Lancelot. That's what should be in front of Boomhilda, and I sneak that in. Backline Mummy, that probably also should have been in front of Boomhilda, but I guess I'm scaling the Water Wraith or something here. Yeah, that was just a mistake as I was moving that Lancelot around. But regardless, we're going to be able to grab a free tier 5 treasure here, so that's pretty nice. Does look like our opponent here is quite strong, but we are going to just barely grab the win there against the Summons comp. Tier 5 treasures, like I said, not going to be super impressive. I'll just take the Ugly Gosling's Helm. Not something that I'm like a huge fan of here, but whatever. We'll see what we can make work. And then we have the chance to Mix-a-Whizzle something. There's a few interesting options. We can Mix-a-Whizzle the Lancelot, which would then potentially allow us to like Shard of the Ice Queen the Lancelot. We could also start to Mix-a-Whizzle one of our Wizard's Familiars, or just Mix-a-Whizzle one of our other characters in general. And before I do that, I'm also going to go ahead and pick up Spellweaver, so that way I can add just some more mages to the board. And then I'm still looking for Forking Rod, which I'm not going to find off of this Blind Mouse triple, and I feel like with that not being able to find it there, I'm probably done looking for Forking Rods, and then I go in and pick up another Spellweaver to end off the turn. I do have to sell off my Wizard's Familiar to do that, and it was kind of awkward to try to make that work on the board. Maybe I could have just sold off like the Green Knight or something, but it's so True Love's Kissed up the chain that I didn't really want to do that. I don't know. It was a tough decision, and ultimately I'm not sure if it was the right one, because I wouldn't mind another upgraded Wizard's Familiar, but we'll see where we're able to take this. We're pretty strong at the current board. That Helm of the Ugly Gosling is landing on Boomhilda at the start of our combat, so that's a nice little ranged character, and that's almost enough to take out Nameless Hero there, but not quite. They do hang on to it. We triple the Spellweaver, and then we also grab a free Medusa from the Kidnap that we just used, which is a pretty nice character to grab for free. I'll wind up True Love's Kissing that Lancelot, that turns into an Ashwood Elm, and then again, I don't really have a great option on what to Shard of the Ice Queen there, so I just wind up not casting it. I throw the Wormroot onto Medusa to make it a 6/6. That way, if we wind up getting rid of this Boomhilda, which is one of our weaker characters right now, then we will be able to still have Medusa be slaying in the combats. I realize this Ashwood Helm is actually quite large after turning it good, so maybe I will have it stick around for just a moment here. We see that this Horde Dragon is still playing some summons, but now they have found an Echo Wood plus their upgraded Bearstain, so they're a little bit larger. They're also going to, speaking of summons, summon 2 Echo Woods there, so they do have a pretty strong board, but our ranged characters are just barely able to get it done. So we've just beat 2 of the remaining 4 players in the lobby, and looks like Gwen lost to the Pied Piper, so I'm feeling pretty good. And feeling even better once we hit this Hercules, because that is going to be a nice little way to grab a more relevant treasure. Right now we're just using Helm of the Ugly Gosling to pump up Medusa, which isn't like super relevant. So now I'm just going to look for some other ways to add power to my board, and I think it is time to start doing something with these Wizards Familiar. I double True Love's Kiss it and then shard it, and that turns into a Sporko, which makes it a ranged character. A little bit of investment to make it a ranged character is nice, and we'll see what we can do with this one now. But yeah, I'm definitely happy enough with how this turned out, and then ultimately I'm going to wind up throwing the Mummy back in on this board, and another summons player we have here. Definitely a lot of Bearstains and Ambrosias in this lobby. We are going to be able to grab the Hercules. Hercules really good against summon comps, and then we'll do pretty well with all of these ranged characters. We just barely get a loss. We take 9 damage, our first damage in a little bit though, so I'll definitely take it. And Mimic Chest, while not super exciting, is a relevant treasure. And also, for those of you that are not aware, the reason that I don't take Ninth Book of Merlin there is Ninth Book of Merlin on Peter Pan's can only cast Earthquake and Falling Stars, so super not exciting. But the main thing that Mimic Chest does, it does make our spells a little bit cheaper. Our True Love's Kisses are a little bit cheaper, but the other thing that it does is whenever we cast a targeted spell, then 2 more spells roll into the shop to be able to use for next turn. So that's the idea there, just a little bit more access to spells. Definitely not as strong as Forking Rod, which double casts, and then because of the double cast allows you to see some more spells, but Mimic Chest still does a little something something, so we pick it up here for lack of a Forking Rod, and also because the Helm of the Ugly Gosling wasn't really doing anything for us at this stage of the game, so I was definitely done with that one. My opponent here has a Pumpkin inside a Croc, but not too impressive of a board after that. They do have a Cupid, and then they do also have a Siren. That could potentially get a little bit sketchy, but luckily our characters have just enough health, thanks to those Beauty's influences, that they are able to survive here. I'm going to wind up throwing Shard of the Ice Queen onto Hercules now. That gives us a Boomhilda. Probably not throwing Boomhilda on the board at this point, but we'll see what else we can find as we continue to cast some spells here. And now we are into the finals. So because of that, probably not too much time left. I'm going to go ahead and True Love's Kiss on my Wizards Familiar a few times. That gets us a Juliet. We'll see if we can turn that into anything else exciting before this game is up. But I do think, yeah, this turn is going to be up, and I'll sell off some more things just to try to find some more spells. Not going to wind up finding anything super exciting, but we do add a few more stats to this mummy here. And because it might actually be the last turn of the game, I wind up casting a few more spells. Even so, I throw a Beauty's Influence on Boomhilda, so that way I can Shard of the Ice Queen it, and then get a little bit more stats onto Ashwood Elm. But nothing crazy for this last combat, or what I was thinking could be this last combat if we grab a win here. But my opponent with an upgraded Echowood, 2 upgraded Bear Stains is actually quite strong, and we're going to wind up grabbing a tie against my opponent. So we've still got some Storybook Brawling left to do. These flourishes are great. We'll throw all of those and basically whatever extra stats we can onto Ashwood Elm. And now we've got a pretty good reward for doing so. That gives us a Burning Tree and an Echowood on the final turn from a few more True Love's Kisses. So now we've got a full trees comp in addition to this nice backline mages comp. And now I'm feeling pretty good. I think that we are doing more powerful things than my opponent is. We find another tree, we find a Nutcracker as we True Love's Kiss the Mummy. Finally, and then I'll wind up sharding of the Ice Queen. That gives us a slightly bigger Medusa, which is like potentially relevant, and I actually really think about trying to put another Medusa into this board. My opponent has the Echowoods, but ultimately I just decide that playing all these ranged characters I think is ultimately going to be better for us. We'll see how that shakes out, but basically these frontline trees, I mean, my Echowood is bigger than my opponent's Echowood now, so I don't actually have that much to be afraid of. We eat their upgraded Echowood, now we're going to eat their Bear Stains, and then we'll eat their other Echowood and eat them. Yum, yum, yum. And there we go. There is a nice little Peter Pan's game. Really just that last turn at the end, we got to go a little bit crazy with it. For the most part, a pretty vanilla game. That's kind of why I'm throwing it as Sunday's video, just to upload something here, but yeah, I mean, I like to show off Peter Pan's every once in a while. It does feel a little bit samey, but I think that can be a good thing too. It just means the hero's like very consistently doing this same thing, which is a pretty powerful thing to do. But that is going to be it for me today, guys. Thank you very much for watching. I'm No Lex Given. Peace.